Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Food and Movies Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. That's my friend Jeremy.
Oh, hey there. How's it going?
Yeah, I didn't see you there, but you're here now. This is the Food and Movies Podcast, as I mentioned before, where we deconstruct. We don't deconstruct. Well, we do kind of.
Kind of.
But we investigate the intersection between food and movies.
It depends on the movie. I guess last week we deconstructed a little bit. But this week, things are going to change. What movie are we doing? We're doing a redemption film here, I think. Redemption for last week.
Yes, we are. And normally you mention it, but since you threw it to me, I'll mention it. We're doing possibly the greatest food movie of all time. We're talking about the GOAT of food movies here, people. This is Big Night.
Big night.
Big night, big podcast, big expectations, which I feel is warranted for this movie. So before we get into it, just a little background on the podcast and how it goes. Jeremy and I will give our initial thoughts about the movie. Then we will analyze the food in the movie in a chronological way. But in general, it's a free-forming conversation, improvisational, basically absurdist film criticism using food and our own vast knowledge of life, movies, food, and, the American way, even though we're Canadian.
Yeah, exactly.
So your first initial thoughts, Jer. Let's talk about it, man. Let's get into this.
It's so funny because I hadn't actually watched this movie for such a long time. I watched it when I was a kid. And I always remembered it being like, oh, yeah, that's the movie where they eat dinner in a restaurant. But I had a coworker years ago saying, oh, you should watch this movie. You should watch this movie. And he always would bring in the Big Night. If you like food, it's the movie you got to watch. It's the food movie. And I was, I'll watch it again. Never got around to it, mainly because I just never really thought of it at the time. But rewatched it for the purposes of this podcast and really dug into the nuance of it. And it was such a refreshing palate cleanse after what we watched last week.
Oh, I like the wording. I love how you worded that.
It was like an aperitif, or in the Italians, the aperitivo.
We needed it though.
Yeah, it really kind of cleansed that palate, and it was like a nice, refreshing sorbet after the big steaming pile of schlock we watched.
Keep them coming. Let's go.
But what about? How about you? Initial thoughts? How you feeling? What's going on?
Man, I gotta admit, I got kind of emotional watching this film. I really did. First and foremost, this is the film which I think launched the entire subgenre or genre of food movies. This is a foodie movie.
Yeah.
This is the first one I'm aware of that I've ever watched. I mean, you tell listeners at home, you tell me if there's a better one or an earlier one or what. I don't know. Maybe, H.L. Mencken back in the day did one. I have no idea. But yeah.
Yeah, there may have been like a Chaplin one with pies. I don't know.
Yeah, Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin had dueling food movies, one with pies, one with, I think, strudel.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Oh, what's her name? Lucille Ball with the chocolates on the conveyor belt. That was a TV show, so we're not going to include that.
Probably won't go there. It's funny you say that this kind of started it, and we did it in reverse order, but we watched the movie last week that killed the food genre.
We had to.
In the head. And then this is the one that started it, that kind of took us to a whole new level.
We talk about book endings all the time. We, in the vein of Pulp Fiction, started with the end, and now we're back at the beginning because Burnt, as Jeremy mentioned, really did destroy the genre of food movie or foodie movie. We're not even sure what the genre is called. We're going to call it food movies. Mm-hmm. But Big Night started it, and you can see the great contrast between the two movies. Big Night was a singular passion project by a dude who loves food, loves movies, loves his Italian heritage, loves the immigrant his experience of his parents and grandparents. And it shows in every single frame of this movie. You watch this movie and it's like getting a warm hug from your Italian nonna after, coming home from school, walking through a snowstorm. It felt so good watching this movie. I mean, and then Burnt, it was the exact opposite. You can tell it was made by a studio, made by dudes who look at spreadsheets all day, and they just did this weird detached calculation on how to make a food movie. They made it. They all thought it should have worked. It's got all the elements in there. was a steaming pile of crap.
Yeah.
Just is what it was.
It felt like it was written by a committee.
Yeah.
And in contrast, The Big Night felt like it was written by somebody who is very, very passionate about food and, as you said, about Italian culture and about the immigrant experience in the U.S. So,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we liked this film. Clearly it was, it hit home for us as two Italian immigrants. No, we're not.
Well, listen, Jeremy's Jewish. I'm Indian. We have immigrants kind of DNA and psychology in our past. So this, as far as origin stories go, this kind of hits close to both of us because we are either sons or grandsons of immigrants. And we're all kind of related when we're that close to immigration. So when I was watching this movie, I haven't watched it in years, like years. And I watched this movie around the same time I watched Pulp Fiction. That was when I was first getting into movies. And I loved it so much back then. But it was one of those things where it's like you listen to a song that you haven't heard since you were in, junior high or whatever, or high school, and you hear it again and boom, you're right back there. You remember exactly what you were thinking when you were watching this movie back then. It took me on a nostalgia trip that I haven't been on in a long time, man. Like it really took me back. And I almost teared up a couple times because I just remember, young unibrow, I should know that my username, unibrow, fat Paul, in Halifax, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing in this city as, one of the few brown people who grew up here. Just like, what is going on? And it's a real personal, it's very much a part of my own origin story, I feel like.
This movie and Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, but this movie, it didn't, because I've watched Pulp Fiction repeatedly throughout my life, but this I haven't.
No.
And so watching it again, it really connected me psychologically to my younger self in a weird way.
Okay.
Like reading an old journal entry or something like that.
I think that's super interesting about that. I think maybe because, I'm downtown Toronto, born and raised in and amongst my own people. It really, I didn't get that experience from it. And when I did originally watch this movie, I was too young to register memories probably. So I remember the film, but there was nothing visceral about it for me, except for the fact that I liked it. I liked it in the fact that, and I think we were talking about this before, where sometimes a simple story, just a very simple linear story without too many twists and turns, bringing in elements that are unneeded to cover off some base or whatever. It really is an effective way to tell a story, right?
Yeah.
We talked about The Revenant and how guy leaves place, gets attacked by bear, comes back to place, leaves place again, kills guy. Very simple story, but it worked, very effective. This is the same thing. It's, guys are struggling, big night's going to happen, they see their salvation. Spoiler alert, doesn't really happen. And then we end off. Very straightforward linear story, but it's kind of the fun you have along the way that really makes this film.
Well, I completely agree with what you're saying. And I love, it's exactly what you mentioned. It's sort of like, it's not the story, it's how you execute it, basically. And which I think is a very good parallel to the way the traditional Italian pastas were. Like you mentioned. Some of them only had 2 to 3 ingredients, but executed well is delicious. This movie, like you said, it's about a couple of brothers in an Italian restaurant trying to save it from being closed. They throw a party at the end, not even in a wild party, just a regular nice party. It doesn't work out. Simple story, but everything along the way was so interesting and specific. And it really was like a simple Italian pasta elevated by the details.
Yeah. And by the great cast.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple things I wanted to mention in the intro. Is how it's great to see a movie like this where everything is period and it's not. Right now, everything you watch, you can kind of tell it's on a screen, there's a green screen behind everybody, and it has everything has this weird glow about it now. But back, you're watching this and you're seeing all these. The specificity to the time and the place, everything was real. It felt real. The signage and the little the details in the bar and in the kitchen, all those things, and the clothing and whatnot, the hairstyles, super, super specific. This is, New Jersey. This is 1950s. Couple of brothers trying to make it in a real Italian restaurant, not one of those mainstream ones. A movie for grown folks. This is on our wall of fame of movies for grown folks.
Yeah,
and it deals with the complexities and subtleties of adult relationships.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
And like in Burnt, as the contrast, he's got all these wild relationships. This guy's in jail. This guy he's screwed over in his restaurant. He's got an ex over here. The guy's in it. He's self-destructing. He's got nemesis, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
This film, the relationships are so simple, but they're complex. These are real grown-up relationships.
Yeah. There's an authenticity there, and I think it comes to, full circle to where you were starting this thought, is it's shot in a very, like, you look at it, and even the, I want to say the filter on it, but this is what unfiltered film looks like, right? This is what 96 film looks like.
Shot on film, on process, like emulsion. Yeah.
It made it feel like I was watching a film that was shot in the 50s. Now, I know that it wasn't that, because films in the 50s were, black and white maybe, and you tell me.
They were getting around to color back then, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like it had that kind of, it wasn't full HD. It wasn't, shot in 1,000 billion frames per second. It was shot on film by a filmmaker and had an art director that seemed to actually care about what was going into the film, the different cars they used, the way the kitchen looked, what people wore, fashion, like had a real eye for the period in which they were trying to capture. And this comes up a lot when you can tell that they just kind of put every car in from the same year. And they just did, like, this wasn't that. Like, they drove an older car. You saw some new Cadillacs. There's just a lot of interesting kind of truths about the 50s. And no more so than when we get into the food of the movie. Some of the food that was being served, like the big table side presentations and cutting it in front of the as kind of a ta-da. That was very big early on. Like, the steak poivre next to the table where they're lighting the thing on fire, or the table side Caesar salad, or, like they did the roast beef carvery, like that big reveal that you get at these old school restaurants. It doesn't exist anymore because, now you've got the open kitchen so you can watch. Or sometimes you'll see it on Hell's Kitchen. Gordon Ramsay will send one of his poor chefs out to make a fool of himself, like next to the table. But like, that's just to put somebody under pressure on TV. You rarely see it at restaurants. Like maybe at your old school steakhouses, you get it sometimes. But so it was just a nice little subtle touch that we'll get into when we talk about the food.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple other things I want to mention in the intro. Great to see regular looking people getting to star in a movie. Everyone in this movie is generally just regular looking as far as looks go, but they were all incredibly charismatic, despite their average-ish looks.
Well, Minnie Driver was considered to be very attractive at some point, wasn't she?
This is Minnie Driver before she went anorexic and dropped 50 pounds or whatever. This is like good old fashioned, you know what I mean? The Minnie Driver that I would want to be friends with.
You're kind of Minnie Driver. And I mean,
some curves to her,
Ian Holm's pretty sexy.
Ian Holm, killing it. Might be the greatest Ian Holm role I've ever seen.
There's
I'll get into that in a second.
He's good at a lot. He's a very good actor.
Holy cow, he kills this role. So good. Stanley Tucci, who was the writer, director, co-director, star, cast Minnie Driver, who was actually quite a bit, like, she's almost as tall as him. Yeah. So short king Stanley Tucci leaning into his short king energy. God bless him.
Yeah.
I don't think Tom Cruise is doing that.
Well, they shoot him low all the time.
I know, but you actually have two shots here with him and Minnie Driver, and you can literally see the height difference. They didn't have to do that. He thought, no, this is their relationship. These relationships exist in real life. Let's just do it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are my thoughts of the opening and the intro. Anything else you wanted to mention before we get going?
No, I think the food will really kind of bring my thoughts to life here because there's a lot of it. And I really want to attack that. Let's get right into it.
All right. So as a food movie, we get right down to business. Opening shot is a young Mark Anthony, the singer Mark Anthony, in a bit part before he became a superstar. Yeah. Shout out to Stanley Tucci for recognizing this man's potential. Put him in a little. I'm pretty sure it was a non-speaking role. I don't think this guy spoke very much.
He added a lot. he was always there, and he was always doing. He got kind of some emotional. I don't know what it was from him, but he added to each scene he was in, but he didn't say anything.
No, he was great. He was just kind of there. You know, it really did add a lot to it. You don't have to say much just to add to the movie. But he is standing, looking out into the Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic Ocean? Yeah, Atlantic Ocean.
Would be.
He's eating something and wearing a chef's jacket. We're not sure what.
Looked like bread to me.
Probably bread.
I'm going to go with bread.
Yeah. All right, bread. And then we follow him as he walks into a very Italian kitchen, a great looking kitchen too.
Yeah.
Man, that looked like a great kitchen. And we see two men who we later learn are Primo, which is Tony Shalhoub's character. He is the master Italian chef, and his brother, who is Stanley Tucci, named Secondo. Shout out to their dad for letting both of them know, listen, you're number one, you're number two.
Yeah, which I think helps to explain a lot of their relationship.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot going on there beneath the surface. But such a simple nuance as naming the Primo Secondo is like, it's very funny. First of all,
I think it's funny. It's to the point. You're not wasting time.
Nope.
Naming your kids like, okay, you're first. I'm gonna have another one. He's gonna be second. That's the names. You know.
Right.
Also, it should diminish sibling rivalry because we know he's number one. You're number two. That's what it is.
And interesting contrast to Burnt, where in Burnt they would have said, my brother was born before me, and then I was born. He was the first, and that's why his name was... They just said the name and moved on. Yeah. And it let you, the smart, intelligent viewer, glean what you can from it. So, this is what, when we talk about contrast between the two movies, that's what we mean, like in a lot of ways. It's a very good analogy for the bigger problem with Burnt. But back to this.
And one thing I noticed when I first watched this movie was there had not been many restaurant movies back then.
Yeah.
I noticed how much Stanley Tucci was helping with the cooking, with the prep and everything.
Yeah.
And I was naive at the time, and I was like, I think he might be the chef. Is he going to be the actual chef? Is this like a reversal thing where they're playing with me? You know what I mean? But it's like, no. Chefs need assistants. And they didn't have anybody, so he was just there assisting him, you know? Yeah. But, he's the genius. There's not going to be one of those weird, tacky kind of reversals here.
And he's telling him, don't cut it too fine. Too much garlic, yada, yada, yada. So, and then Mark Anthony there. Mark Anthony is he's the kitchen assistant, but they're so short-staffed that Tucci has to jump back there, too, and help out.
Yeah, Mark Anthony is kind of like the overall helper, busses tables, cleans things, helps with it, whatever. But good dude, Mark Anthony. One of the scenes that I remember since day one was the scene of Primo going to the restaurant and adjusting things. It was so slow and methodical. There was a lot of ASMR too. There's something about him kind of like just adjusting and moves the flower pot a little bit outside, chucks the rock aside. And then the two ashtrays on the bar. Mm-hmm. There's something about watching someone who is earnestly doing something, which is very watchable, I find. Yeah. I don't know.
And it also tells you that he's meticulous. Mm-hmm. As a chef, he's probably very meticulous. He cares a lot about every detail. So when we get into the food he makes, it's very interesting.
Oh, sorry. This was Secundo. This was Stanley
well,
Tucci.
yeah. Both of them though. Both of them seem to be
Well,
very, very.
it shows you he really cares. You know what I mean? Like he really, really cares about this restaurant. He takes a lot of pride in it.
Yeah,
I think
it's his. Sorry, you're right. Tucci throws the rock away. Tucci moves the ashtrays, and then Buddy's in the kitchen making the food. Sorry.
Right. So the whole movie is our poor boy Secundo, Stanley Tucci, just trying to get it, just trying to make it, man. Just like trying to hold on to this business, which is struggling so bad. And his whole life is this business. You know what I mean? And it's like he has this thing where it's like, I really want this business to work. And he has faith in people that they will understand how good this food is eventually. If they just give him a chance. If they just give him a chance, people will get it. We kind of see his dilemma in the first customer scene.
Yeah.
Where we got this very working class American couple. God bless them. You know what I mean? Dude's eating pasta, and the lady, she orders what she thinks is seafood and rice, which is actually seafood risotto. And she does not know what the heck she's looking at. Right. And she, to the shock of Secundo, she wants to order a side of spaghetti with her risotto.
Right.
Jer, would you have flipped this table over if you had been Secundo at that point?
Well, it goes back to when we watched Annie Hall, and I was talking about things you do and don't do in a deli. Mayonnaise being a big no-no, putting lettuce, big no-no. This in Italian culture is a big no-no because the Italian course structure, which we'll get into later, really allows for you to have a diversity of food across a longer period of time. And this would be like having steak and chicken in the same, which sounds delicious, but it's weird. Or having like a steak and a pork chop. Like I get surf and turf is fine, but it's a nonsense move because you're having two starches. So risotto is almost like a pasta in a lot of ways because it's very starchy.
It's rice, so it's very starchy as hell.
It's very heavy. Like pasta, Italians will cook the rice to an al dente, so it's got a little tooth to it. And usually they add in other ingredients. In this case, it's seafood. But that doesn't mean that there are going to be chunks of seafood in there. It could be with risotto, you build it with a broth. So it could be that he made the stock from all of the ingredients, the shellfish that he, Secundo is speaking about, right? So that's the nuance there. Usually you'd have risotto in one dish, or as your secondi, and then for your main course you would have like something else, something with protein in it, right? So it's kind of a big faux pas what they're doing, and it just shows, and you see that Primo says, like, I don't want to have to educate these people, like they're Philistines. Which is one of my favorite words for dressing somebody down. If you call them a Philistine, it's a very intelligent, kind of nerdy way of making them feel like complete crap. But so you just don't do it. But at risotto, we'll stop. I'm going to give you guys my risotto recipe. Look for it down. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be down below. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the Philistine risotto.
Oh, this is fantastic! Right out of the gate, early on. Like I always wonder where these recipes are going to appear, but like, wow, that's good that it came out early because now everyone's got to stay on their toes to watch for the recipes. So.
I didn't want to do the big thing at the end there because that's been done.
That's been done for sure, yeah. But you mentioned the Philistine slur. When I watched this movie when I was a kid, I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life. I was like, I've never heard someone call someone a Philistine before. And I've used that in my life since then, many times. In fact, oftentimes when I've gotten into an altercation with somebody over something stupid, I will call them a Philistine just to watch their brain kind of like break down. Like, what did that guy call me? Did he call me a Filipino? Like, what was that? You know what I mean?
Or if somebody, from now on, if people call me a Philistine, I'm going to just say thank you. Thank you.
Oh, people at home, if you're getting into an altercation with somebody, call them a Philistine and watch their face.
Yeah.
They'll take a second to kind of like, what was that? What did he say? You know, like it's a good thing to throw out there.
And eat a breadstick while you're doing it.
Eat a breadstick while you're doing it. But this was the first time I had worked in restaurants when I was younger. And I believe I saw this while I was working at a restaurant at Freeman's, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pizza Saturday, was it? Or what was that?
Yeah. Pizza. Well, we were open till 5. They were the latest place open in the city. And so we got a lot of drunk people calling us at 4 o'clock, basically, looking for pizza. I was the delivery driver.
Didn't they have an all-you-can-eat day, though?
I think Sunday was the happy hour. With the
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
They're still around. Laurel's got like 4 or 5 different places now. They're all famous. Wow. But I worked in kitchens, and I will tell you, a lot of the people in these kitchens were pretty rough customers, and if there was an alteration or the customer wasn't happy in any way, these guys would get really upset. I do remember this. And when I watched this movie and watched Primo getting just personally offended at this woman ordering spaghetti, I was like, yeah, that happens. I've been with these guys, and they really are that upset because they never have to deal with customers, so they can just cuss out the waiter and be fine about it. But when Secundo calls his bluff, it's like, oh, really? Okay. And like, there you go. What's up now, tough guy? And of course he backs down immediately. Which all these cooks do. All these cooks are tough until they see a customer looking back at them.
It reminds me of advertising in that you've got the client accounts and the creatives. And so
the accounts are the waitress.
The accounts are the waiters. Yeah. Clients are the clients. And then they come back and they say, yeah, client doesn't like what you wrote. And you're like, oh, Philistines. And then they're like, well, what? Do you want to talk to them? I was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. Jared, how many times have you come back and be like, why? That's an idiotic thing to do. Why would I do that? Like, you want to talk to them? No. All right, I'll make change. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. It's that creative ego that Primo has. And he doesn't want to compromise his creative vision in the kitchen, which I think is, as a chef, I think that's how you're supposed to be. Right? Like, you're putting the product out, so you don't compromise. Don't, if you stand by, he stands by what he delivers, which I see nothing wrong with that, except for the fact that it's making his brother crazy. And
also the restaurant is going under. So
right.
This is something we got to deal with eventually. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like how steadfast are you to your code, to your personal food code? So, it gets put to the test in this movie in a subtle way. But it was just, these are real life things that happen to people that are really important to them, which seem trivial and like next to a Marvel movie where, the world could explode or some aliens coming down. I felt more empathy and tension with these scenes than I ever do in a Marvel movie. I don't like it. I don't care if there's an asteroid coming to Earth to destroy it. I know it's not going to happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? But with this, I'm like, oh, geez, what do you do, man? Like, this is a tough spot,
Are we entering the Marvel movie fray here? Like, all the directors out there, Tarantino and all them talking about Marvel movies? Would you
like to comment on it?
Are we dipping into this pool?
I jabbed him already. Do you want to?
No, I completely agree with you. I don't, there's a time and a place for a Marvel movie, and there's a time, I'll watch a Marvel movie. I like to go to the
theater. Have to. That's all there are, man.
It's true. We don't have much else. I'll go to the theaters, watch a big blockbuster film, and, get nothing from it except for the fact that I watched stuff blow up and there was some semblance of a story and it was coherently put together, and bravo. But this movie, you want to follow it. You want to know a little bit more about it because it's something that could happen to you. It's something that is real, and about it. And it's a man losing his business, or two men losing their business, and then just these little new character nuances between them is showing you why that's happening. And they're kind of setting up like a good pasta. You're building flavor upon flavor upon flavor. Right, so this story is actually like a lot of Italian dishes where you build flavors. And right now we've already seen the building blocks of one was born first, one was born second. They work together. Secundo's meticulous, business-oriented. Primo is a uncompromising genius chef. And they haven't said very much.
No, that's the great thing. We watch how they behave.
Nobody told us this. And this is for all you young writers out there. That's how you write. It's not telling me, it's showing me. And as soon as you figure out how to show people why, somebody does something, you build your characters first, and then you tell the story with those characters. And every action they do should exude their character traits, right? So that's why this movie has, very small flavor building, as I said, but it's subtle and it's brilliant and it's real.
I'm glad you mentioned the writing and the writing style. And the thing that I wanted to talk about as far as Marvel movies and most movies these days, every character nowadays seems to be speaking with the same voice.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, every character, you really felt their biography in everything they said. Like they were really felt different. Every one of them, you could kind of trace back like, oh, this used car salesman, he's got a way different backstory than these guys over here. And the lady at the flower shop, you can kind of sense their entire life just with how they were kind of behaving. It didn't seem like some, writer from the Harvard Lampoon is just in here just punching up crazy, rat-a-tat dialogue for everybody, But so I really loved about this as well.
The lady at the flower shop was Allison Janney. She's a great actress.
Yep. Minute 11, Primo accepts paintings from his artist friend in exchange for food, which Secundo rolls his eyes about. But that is an awesome thing that happens in Europe, which I wish I would love to be in a situation where I'm in a restaurant and I see a painter exchanging his paintings for some food in an Italian restaurant. That just seems so romantic to me.
Yeah.
Loved that.
It's trading art for art in his mind, right?
Yeah. Like
he sees that as a fair trade.
Yeah. Primo, who was ready to, throw this paying customer out on her butt for ordering a side of spaghetti. He's perfectly happy trading his food for art, though. He really does not care about the commerce at all, it seems like.
Yeah. These are two artists doing an exchange.
Yeah. And then at minute 12, Secundo sheepishly asks, and he knows the answer, but he has to ask anyway, do you think we can take the risotto off the menu? Not many people order it. It takes a long time. It costs a lot. Can we take it away? Primo initially says, sure, but then he lures him into an insult by then expanding and saying, maybe we can replace it with this thing called, and like Stanley Tucci kind of leans on it. What is it? What? Yeah. He wants some, he wants some interaction and some ideas from Primo. He thinks, oh, Primo's, he's got some ideas to fix it. He goes, can we replace it with a hot dog? And I was like, you douche.
Yeah.
You
dick.
Pompous douchebag. Like, come on, man. I'm trying to save the restaurant here.
Yeah, but it was good. I mean, it explains how he feels about things like spaghetti and meatballs, which is, for all I can understand, it was an American invention. Meatballs are a thing in Italy, I believe, but you wouldn't. I don't think you'd eat it with spaghetti. Once again, owing back to the Italian meal structure, which we'll get into.
So that was the risotto affair, as I like to call it, the beginning of the movie. This little story about just the risotto, which comes in later on, by the way. We're not done with the risotto at all.
No, there's more risotto.
There's more risotto. Minute 17, it's kind of after the shift is over. They've not really made any money. And Secundo goes to visit his buddy Alberto, who is a barber, and he brings him a pot of special rabbit. Do you know anything about rabbit in Italian cooking at all?
It's a staple in Italian cooking. A lot of European cooking, actually. But rabbit, in North America, rabbit's not quite as seen as good. Like I don't know, there's a cultural aversion to eating it.
Well, they're so cute.
Yeah, I guess that's really, it boils down to that. But in I think it's probably would be northern Italy. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a big expert on that.
They get touchy about that. Those Italians, they get real touchy
Yeah.
about the region.
So if there's a touchy Italian who wants to weigh in, please let us know. But I believe it's like a more rustic northern Italian, like a rabbit stew or rabbit dishes like that. It's very gamey. It's kind of like chicken. Like it's similar to chicken. I know that everything's like chicken, but the way the rabbits are kind of structured to me, it tastes like chicken. Some people would disagree, I'm sure. But yeah, a rabbit stew kind of seems like a fairly normal Italian dish that people would eat, I think.
Do you eat the ears?
I doubt it.
Okay. All right. If they were French, they would eat those fucking ears.
Yeah.
They would.
Yeah,
they would do that. So as Primo has gone to visit his barber friend, played by this great actor who we see all over the place, but I don't know his name, but just a great face on this guy. Awesome character actor. And awesome voice on him, too. While he's doing that, at minute 24, Secondo goes to visit his rival at a very popular Italian restaurant called Pascal's. And there's this one tracking shot with no cuts where he goes into the restaurant, and it's like descending into the seventh realms of hell. Like everything is bathed in this red light. There are people kind of frolicking and being just showing their appreciation of this really not good food that he can see from the tables. And as he's traveling through the restaurant, deeper and deeper into the restaurant, it's like going deeper and deeper into a hell which he doesn't want to get. This is the opposite of his dream. He does not want this. But this is what's successful in America. And throughout this entire shot, it ends and lands on Pascal, played by Ian Holm, who has a frying pan which is on fire of Cherry's Jubilee, and he's laughing maniacally.
Yeah,
he's clearly he's the devil. Is he not the devil in this? Like,
he kind of feels like the devil because,
and he's making a deal with
he's making a deal with the devil. I think there is some sort of analogy here. Coming to the promised land, selling your soul to save your restaurant.
The flaming hot cherries really did it for me.
Yeah, it really did kind of, and the lighting in the restaurant
with the red
like
light.
It was very kind of. It was kind of like what a mob movie would make an Italian restaurant look like, so that it's very clear to an American audience this is an Italian restaurant. But then Cherry's Jubilee is not really that Italian. But I guess he's making whatever appeals to the masses, right? As opposed to Primo, who won't do that. He will not bend to the masses. He does what he wants to do. He
wants the authentic food, the real stuff.
Yeah, and Ian Holm only wants to make money. So he's doing, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. This is a big tableside hurrah for, usually the tableside thing is kind of like a pretty basic. They just want to light something on fire, so everyone at the table goes, "Oh." It's like the hibachi cooking, or when you're at like Lone Star or whatever, and the sizzling fajitas come out. Yeah. Like it's that. It's this it's the 1950s version of that, which is more showmanship than substance.
I'll tell you what, though, I don't like the fact this guy is bastardizing Italian food, but man, I love a good tableside flame of some kind. I'm a sucker for that.
You're into the onion volcano at the Benihana's?
Anything to do with fire?
Yeah.
I'm just let's go, man. Let's make this a dangerous dinner.
A good flambe. Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'll yeah. If you can light a flaming mo for me, I'll take one of those.
Fair
Whatever.
enough.
If you can light it on fire, I'm kind of into it.
Yeah.
But they meet in his office back behind the kitchen, and he lays out his problem. They're running out of money. He's been to the bank. They won't give him a loan. And he's coming to Pascal, who was like a frenemy, I guess. They're competitors, but they're also kind of friends because they're both immigrants and they're both Italian. They both live in the same area.
Mentoring him, kind of, it seems.
Yeah, and then he tells him a lie, which basically ruins his business. The business is on its last legs, and Ian Holm is like, he wants to hire them both. He says so. Yeah. He wants to hire them both for his restaurant.
Yeah.
And Secondo is very just like, no, I don't want to do that. And so he tells them, listen, have a party. I will bring my friend Louis Prima to the party. and we'll get a guy from the newspaper, and that will give you the publicity
Right.
to bring the restaurant into the public consciousness, and you will start making money. This is a lie. This is what the devil does. The devil tells you a lie. You make a deal with him, and he destroys you, and then he owns your soul, which that's the plan, and it kind of works.
And it would be owning, especially in Primo's case, your soul, because that restaurant is everything he hates. And he says it numerous times. You know, he basically thinks they're Philistines, right? So, you know, it would be the equivalent of selling your soul. So I think you're onto something with this deal with the devil motif here. I think it makes sense.
Well, specifically to that character and their relationship with him, it seems pretty heavy-handed to me. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but
and there are other things too that'll come up as we go. But other little things that he tempts him. He's always tempting him with things, which is interesting. Which is a very devil-y thing to do.
Yeah, and Secundo is always extremely well controlled. He's always tightly wound, very much in control. His suit is immaculate. His hair is immaculate. His restaurant is immaculate. He's very specific and detailed. And then you've got Pascal, Ian Holm, wonderfully played by Ian Holm, by the way.
Yeah.
But he's the exact opposite. He's id. He's like, he's screaming all the time. He's lighting things on fire. He's biting Secundo in the butt, and he's saying, you have to bite into the, what did he say? You have to take a bite out of life or something like that.
Yeah, a bite out of the ass of life or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he's totally consumed with like hedonistic pursuits of money and pleasure, and and not being disciplined or showing any regard for, the really good things in life, the good foods in life and things like that.
He doesn't like the rules of cuisine, as much as Primo seems to. Although Ian Holm's not really the chef, he is more kind of he's more. I think he's more runs that restaurant, and then has chefs working for him, and that's why he wants to have Primo and Secundo there. But for sure, he's definitely got this hedonistic way of being, where it is very much like the devil or some sort of.
It's a contrast to Secundo for sure.
Yeah.
So Secundo, because he's a good guy, because he likes to do things the right way, he believes that this man's telling him the truth, because he thinks that that's what people do. They tell the truth to each other.
Yeah.
And so he goes about the plan of creating this great night for Louis Prima, this great party for him. And minute 38, him and Secundo start gathering ingredients. They go to the market. They're looking at the basil, which does not look good.
Not good
basil.
Put
that out there right now.
It looked wilted. He said it's black. When basil turns black, you can't eat it.
No. So Prima seems kind of like, he's really mopey. He's like, what are we doing? I don't know what we're doing. And then Secundo explains to him, hey, man, this is it. If this doesn't work, we are done. We are going back to Italy, man. It is over. And that's when Primo snaps to attention. He's like, okay, this is my moment. I have to come through here. Yeah. I'm a superhero in the kitchen, and I must show what I can do. I must show the world my powers.
Yeah.
So from there, once Secundo clicks in that he has to really bring his A game, minute 40, we cut to Primo. Everyone's back in the kitchen, and Primo starts asking for this, take this drum, please wash this. He starts giving instructions, and Secundo's like, no. And what we don't realize is that this is the precursor to, in my opinion, the greatest food porn event in cinema history.
Really?
To this point, that for me, anyway.
How does it rate against the Goodfellas garlic prison cookings?
Better. Yeah. Close. You
learn a lot through the montage about different things that, ways of cooking and making pasta and stuff like that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and the way Primo, who is his own hype man, by the way, he loves him some him. He really, but he says to, they're like, what's timpano? And he's like, he says to Phyllis, timpano is a pasta with a special crust, and it's shaped like a drum, like a timpano drum. And inside, all the most important things in the world. Don't you want to eat that, Chair?
I do.
Yeah.
Except for when they cut it open and you see like the full eggs in there.
Oh, you weren't a fan of the hard-boiled eggs?
No, I love hard-boiled eggs, but I'm just like, that's strange. Like, it's a strange addition for me. It's, it's not uncharacteristic. It makes sense, but it's just like, whoa, that's a heavy, heavy meal right there. That's like lasagna dialed up to 1,000.
Yeah, it's like pasta cake, which I'm all for.
Yeah,
I'm completely in favor of that.
And we can see what's in there for sure. There's some sort of, he rolls penne. He rolls his own penne. It looks like
penne, meatballs, sauce,
sauce, eggs.
I think they just repeat that.
Yeah, and it's layered like a lasagna almost, and then it's covered in, I guess, puff pastry or some sort of outer crust.
No, I think that is like the pasta, like the flat pasta.
It's covered in a sheet pasta that's crisped up so that it has a bit of a crust to it, which sounds very heavy.
I had never. Well, we'll get to it eventually, but it's. We'll get to it. We'll talk about it when it happens. Anyway, going along with my making a deal with the devil motif, while Secundo is driving around doing errands, getting ready for the party, minute 42, Secundo is driving past Pascal's restaurant, and in slow motion, he sees a chef on fire. His jacket is on fire. And then he's running out of Pascal's restaurant through the back door, and Pascal is literally chasing him, screaming at him, looking like he's telling him to get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
And then the chef who is on fire takes off his flaming coat, and then Pascal sees Stanley Segundo, and he's like, "Ooh, oh!" And he tries to like wave hi to him, like,
yeah.
Segundo is getting a glimpse into what his future could be if this deal happens with the devil. So.
Absolutely, and it's almost like the way that was shot, like it felt like slow motion, and
it was slow motion.
Yeah, it felt very surreal. Him coming out and on fire, like, is this really happening right now?
Like, it could have been a dream sequence. We don't know. Yeah,
but very interesting.
Minute 52. This is not a food moment, but it's a great moment anyway. Throughout the movie, there's this kind of ongoing thing where the characters have a hard time finding the proper English word that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And a lot of things get missed. And there's this joke at minute 52 about Secundo's talking about, it's going to rain outside. He goes, better than rain inside.
Yeah.
And like they kind of like stop, and no one, it was the least funny. It sucked all the air out of the room, and they just will not refuse. They refuse to cut away from it. It's like, no, explain your joke. I don't understand. It doesn't rain inside. Like, it's...
Which to me is something that really kind of also helps tell their story, right? Like it tells that neither of these three guys are on the same page, because it was Primo Secundo and Ian Holmes' character were there, right?
Yeah, Pascal.
Yeah. So none of these three are on the same page whatsoever. They're all three of them are Italian, it seems. Yep. And they just it's a total communications breakdown that could have easily been edited out. If this was a very formulaic movie, it would be totally unnecessary. But they kept it in, and it's great. Like it plays, and it was a good little laugh, and it also kind of tells you a little bit about the situation between these three guys.
Oh, there was some awkward pauses of the two of these guys trying to figure out the joke that just seemed like they lasted for hours, but it was only a few seconds. It was
but they were great.
Well done.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've been in that situation because I'm around a lot of older Indian dudes who are immigrants, and their English is not their first language. So sometimes I will tell a joke which I think is pretty clever, but it will go over their heads because of the language. And so then they're kind of like looking at me like, what is this guy even talking about? So, I really appreciated that part. At that moment, at that little conversation between the three of them, minute 54, Primo finds out that the Louis Prima party is actually Pascal's idea, and he is not happy. He can kind of see through Pascal.
Yeah, he doesn't buy it.
He storms off, and Secundo is kind of like, no, don't, you know what I mean? Like, this is where the big bro kind of comes in, where Primo's like, I don't know about this, man. This doesn't, I'm not happy about what's going on. I know this guy, and I know this guy is not a honest guy. So I'm not happy.
This guy seems like he seems shady to me. He doesn't trust him, and he thinks he's a Philistine. So
yes. And he goes, in 58, he goes to his kitchen, and he has one of the best chef rants I've ever heard. And it's not like in that crappy film Burnt, where it's so forced.
Yeah.
And you can tell it was overly written.
Yeah.
But some writer probably punched it up. They just brought him in to punch that up or whatever. But this is Primo talking about, do you know what happens in that restaurant? Rape! The rape of cuisine! And then it's only for a second. Like, he doesn't go on and on, but he just kind of like gets it out of his system and kind of talks his way down again. But
Yeah.
how do you feel about the rape of cuisine?
Glad you brought Burnt into the equation, because that was the rape of cuisine film.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it totally.
They raped film and cuisine in that. There was double rape.
Double.
In that movie. Yeah.
Jesus.
I know. I'm sorry to trigger warning.
Yeah, let's put a trigger warning on that. But yeah, no, I agree with him. Although I didn't, except for the Cherries Jubilee, I don't know. We don't know if that's true. We're just taking his word for it. Because I don't
think Primo lies about that stuff.
No, neither do I. Judging by everything I know about him thus far. But I think that's interesting to know. We never actually know or see very much served at that other restaurant.
True. So as they're going through their day getting ingredients, they're asking everyone they know. And because they're immigrants, they're new to this country, they have all these unusual connections to people. They don't really have that set social circle that you get when you're in a city for your entire life. So you have all these strange connections, like the flower lady over here, the Italian barber over there, the guy who's trying to sell me a car, he's invited, So you get this crazy cornucopia of individuals at this party, which I was like, this is my vibe, man. I love this. This is exactly the kind of party I want to go to, with all these interesting characters from different backgrounds, and we're about to eat some great food. So
yeah, and that's who they bring in.
Yeah, and the character Segundo, he's so funny because he's so clearly a nerd, but he's a food nerd, Like he could easily be like a software programmer who's just this genius guy on his keyboard, and then he tries to be in social situations and he's very awkward. He doesn't know how to act. So he has this weird flirtation with the florist, Anne, which Segundo kind of makes fun of him for. And at 104, turns out his little crush, Anne from the flower shop, has arrived at the party. He eats some fresh parsley before he goes out to talk to her. So he knows at least that much. Yeah. I better eat this parsley before I go talk to this lady. So that was a great little moment for me.
And I think that was kind of a nice moment between the two brothers where Bertucci is actually the one who invites her.
Yeah.
Because Primo was just too scared. But
they
knew each other, and he knew that Primo would want her there.
Yeah. And that's where the kind of the partnership comes in. Like, Primo is great in the kitchen. Just stick him in the kitchen, he'll create miracles. But you need that front of house guy, the guy who's dealing with the customers, which is Segundo, and he's good with people. He can ask Anne, "Why don't you come to the party?" You know what I mean? So helps him out there, gives his brother a little assist, as we say in Canada. Hockey, shout out to hockey players. Minute 10. Primo, he's interacting with Anne in the front of the house in the dining room, but then he does what guys like him do. He brings her into his world where he feels comfortable, and he shows her, this is what I do. Watch how good I am at what I do. He's cooking Fiorentino sauce, but he calls it Fiorentino Rapido sauce, which is a fast sauce.
It's a quick sauce that he's put together with a lot of looks like tomatoes and stuff like that. Quick pasta sauce. And she loves it. And that's the move, ladies and gentlemen. That's, if you can cook and you're good at it, invite them into your world. Because let me tell you, it works like a charm here. She's all over him. She's loving it.
When he feeds her the sauce with his own hands.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing. Don't do that. I would say don't do that, but like, she is trying to grab the sauce with her fingers and it's too hot for her, and she's having trouble. So he's like, "Oh, no problem." Boom. And he does it. That's smooth. But if you here, try this, and suggest someone eat sauce off your fingers, that's creepy. Don't do that. Yeah. So it was the perfect execution of what he did.
Don't lead with the sauce in the mouth with your fingers. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and she eats this sauce, and she basically has an orgasm right in front of us.
Right there.
She says, "Oh my God," like 3 times, I think, and her eyes roll back in her head. So,
and this isn't the first. Well, this is the first kind of foodgasm we get, but it won't be the last. There are plenty more.
Yeah, and then he follows that up with the real slick line by talking about how he says, that to eat good food is to be close to God.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I'm pretty sure she decided that she's going home with this guy. You can kind of see it in her eyes. She was like, oh yeah, this is happening.
And contrasts the devil nicely. So once again, plays into that, bad food, devil, good food, God.
Yeah.
Heaven and hell.
Heaven and hell. God. I didn't even see that coming, Jared. Good.
It's a very simple analogy, but it's totally working. So
yeah. And playing off of that, minute 1:15, Gabriella, played by the legendary Isabella Rossellini, goes to the back of the restaurant where Phyllis, Minnie Driver, who is Stanley Tucci's official girlfriend, Gabriella is his side lady, and she is also the wife of Pascal.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there.
Is this like a quadrangular love?
It's a love octagon?
Octagon?
Parallelogram?
Okay, this is a rhombus. This is a love rhombus.
A love rhombus.
Yeah. So once again, for those listening at home, Secundo, his girlfriend is Phyllis, who is played by Minnie Driver.
Yeah.
He is also banging Gabriella, who is the wife of Pascal, who he has made the deal with to get Louis Prima here.
Yeah.
So, as I was mentioning, these are all very grown-up relationships.
Right.
And at no time does anyone kind of, well, I mean, maybe a little bit, but no one's out here grandstanding or like blowing up people's spots about who they're banging or what's going on yet. I mean,
no.
Everyone's being grown up about this. It's never kind of revealed one way or another. So
it's all beneath the surface. And also this is kind of, the devil tempting him with his wife, basically. Pascal's not doing it. He's not knowingly doing it, but it is a temptation for Secundo, right? He's being tempted by the fruits of the devil or whatever you want to call that lady. So I thought it was an interesting kind of play on that and plays well into this devil thing we're going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And like in this scene, that red light is in the back of the restaurant shining on them is very similar to the red light in the restaurant. And Phyllis is kind of this like optimistic, young, innocent type person who believes in the good of people. And Gabrielle, you can see she has great smoking done by Rossellini. And you can see she's been around and she's very jaded. And you can see she's kind of made a deal with the devil herself, which is like, all right, I'll marry you for the money, but I'm not going to like this. And I'm going to be kind of a mean person because I know that in my head, I've crossed a line by marrying you spiritually.
Yeah.
So.
And she manipulates, right? She even uses, she'd get to help get the booze. They're manipulating each other in a lot of ways. Her and Tucci.
Yeah, Secundo. She's kind of using, I guess, Secundo for sex. I guess he's a sexier guy than Pascal, and then he's using her for booze. And then he makes the mistake that every overconfident dude does, where he takes his main chick and his side chick, and he brings them to the same party, like he thinks that's going to work out.
If you're a gentleman who's dating more than one lady, the easiest way to get caught is to bring them to the same party. That's, I mean, that's a timeless classic. It's also it's why ruin your night?
Honestly, this is the most important night of your life, and you're really going to complicate it by having these two women in the same place. Like you can keep your eye on both of them. Like, are you out of your mind?
Yeah, it's nonsense. So yeah, don't do it.
No,
not a good idea.
Don't do it. So now we get into the best part of the movie, which is the actual party, the big night.
We go through the courses.
Minute 1:16. The title card is, I believe it's called, is it One Primi or I Primi? Do you have that read?
So
it's in my notes here.
They skip a bunch of courses. This is it seems to be a very kind of condensed Italian meal, but Primi is kind of your first course. But before Primi, and they don't really talk about it, but I guess, the drinking can count as it, but you have the aperitivo, which is your aperitif, which is usually like, before we were talking about Italian wines, it's usually an Italian white wine. Like a Pinot Grigio is a nice crisp white wine, or an Italian, like a Prosecco, to kind of get the palate going. Really,
Hey, shout out to straight guys who drink white wine. I'm one of you. So
right? And Italian white wine is some of the best. And then they'll with that, then maybe we'll have some olives out, or just something kind of something to small to kind of get things going, get those juices flowing. But this isn't a real course. It's kind of their the French call it the aperitif. This is aperitif.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have antipasti, which is your appetizer, right? And this is like usually could be a good example is like charcuterie would be this little meats and cheeses, stuff like that to really kind of start things up. Then primi is your first course. And primi is usually no meat. So it's like a risotto or a light pasta maybe. I'm not sure. Italians, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it's there's usually no meat involved in this.
Oh, okay. Well, in this primi, it is a risotto course.
Right. Yeah.
Secondo serves a incredibly visually appealing looking stack of risottos, almost like a flag. You see the three colors.
It's like the Neapolitan ice cream of risotto.
Yeah,
like
it looks kind of like
you have some choices there, flavor.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it matches the Italian flag or not. I think the Italian flag is 3 stripes, is it not?
It is. It's orange, white, and green.
Oh, then it does. It does.
No, it might be. Yeah,
that's what it was.
Red,
it was
red, white, and green, or orange, white, and green.
Well, for the risotto, it was a pinkish risotto, seafood risotto on one side, then a white risotto plain in the middle, and then a pesto risotto, which is the green on that side. So I think it was real risotto too. I think it actually looked pretty real to me.
It looked pretty realistic to me. It's weird how they served it on I guess to get that visual effect, because it seems like Primo's a very visually brilliant chef.
Yeah. And again, Secondo is the man. Like, you want a Secondo in your life because he tells Anne, this is the green risotto which Primo made specifically for you. Right. I have no idea if it's that true, but my man is out here dishing out assists all over the place. Yeah.
So I couldn't see it's red, white, and green, the Italian flag. I don't know what the red one was, but he said
it was seafood. It was kind of pinkish.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. And then we dive right into, and they're all around this great table, and it just looks like the best time. Yeah, I mean, minute 17, the title card says, okay, so the first one's called La Zuppa, and then the second one is Primi il risotto, and that is green, white, and red, so it's the Italian flag.
It's the Italian flag, yeah.
And then the next one is Primi, which is the timpano.
Okay, and they called it what?
Primi.
So they had 2 double primi there, because usually it's primi secondi, and then with your secondi you'd get a contorni, which is like, and that by Italian, I'm butchering it, but that's like a vegetable, like broccolini or something like that. And then if the vegetable, if you need a little more vegetable, which I think in this case you would, you'd have like an insalata, like a salad.
Right. Okay. So, and then they go into a whole montage of stuff, and at the very end they bring out the pig. Okay. So
but I think, like just to level set expectation, it's Italians. This movie was written by Italians. So if they call it this, my knowledge of it is not going to be as good as their knowledge of it. Like, I'll openly admit that. But from what I know of it, and there are different variations of it. There's a 5-course Italian meal. There's a 7-course Italian meal. There are big 12-course Italian meals with different things added in. Like, maybe you could have 2 primis. I don't know. But from my knowledge of it, it's primi, secondi, insalata. I'm looking at my notes, so I make sure I don't miss anything. And then there's like a cheese and fruit course to kind of warm you up before.
I would love a cheese and fruit course with my dinner.
I love a cheese and fruit course in my day. And then you have dolce, which is dessert. And then coffee, and then some sort of digestif like a sambuca or a fernet or some sort of liqueur, like liqueur.
Which you mentioned the sambuca.
Yeah.
remember in the Godfather episode when I was talking about the agnésat that Coppola put in, which
right, and we couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, it's called. Sorry, what did we just say?
Sambuca.
Oh. Yeah, so another name for it is Sambuca.
Oh yeah, so Sambuca is anise, like it's that anise flavored, licorice flavored liqueur that you drank in university one night and got hammered and threw up, and now you can't eat black licorice anymore. Like it's that,
or candy canes,
candy canes. Yeah. So, and I don't know. I forget if Fernet. I believe Fernet Branca is also Italian. I prefer that if I'm having a digestif or digestivo. It's more kind of like it's more bitter. Like if you drink it, you're like, I don't know why I'm drinking this, and I don't know why I'm enjoying this, but I am.
Yeah, I like that stuff.
It's that kind of, you're like, I can't stop, but I'm not enjoying this, but I am enjoying this.
Black coffee is kind of like that. You know?
Yeah. It's culinary bondage, right? Yeah. It's culinary BDSM.
It is.
And a lot of liqueurs can be like that, right? Like not Fireball or anything like that, but like a lot of like the real weird Italian, like I don't know if I really enjoy cognac, but people love it. I just don't. It's not my thing. It doesn't taste good to me.
Even just whiskey, it's like, oh
yeah.
It's like, but then you get that warm feeling, and you're like, I think I need another one. Let's give me another one. You know.
As you age, and the more whiskey you drink, the less that you get, and you go chasing that burn elsewhere. You know.
I love it when your eyes water. You know.
It's a gateway to the digestivos. But yeah, so we've solved the course problem. We've course corrected.
Woohoo!
And now,
bangers,
boom!
Hell yeah!
And now, where are we at in the meal? Sorry, I didn't want to.
So we've gone through the risotto, which was what the title card said, primi,
right?
Il risotto, at minute 16. At minute 17, we alluded to this before. In my humble opinion, the greatest food porn scene of all time, the GOAT of food porn in movies, primi il timpano, when they take the drum off the timpano, and we see it in all its glory as this strange, like, architectural structure, like a bunker of Italian pasta. You know what I mean? And they're all looking at it like,
it's almost like he kisses it at one point.
Well, the funny part is that Mark Anthony, he does what we all would have done, which is like poke it. He wants to touch it, right? Because like it looks so cool. And then they slap his hands away, and then they put both of their hands on it, and then they put their faces on it.
Yeah,
you know, because they smell it. It's like a weird kind of black box of culinary intrigue.
Yeah.
You know, it's this sealed thing, and you want to cut into it so bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the greatest things about dishes like that. Beef Wellington comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Those dishes that you wrap, that you can't tell, is it too hot? Is it done? Is it completely undercooked? And then you cut into it and it's perfect, and everyone's like,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. And J.J. Abrams has built an entire career on crafting stories with the mystery box structure. Yeah. Lost, for instance, was an entire show based on a mystery box with actually nothing in the box. Right. This is mystery box food, which is like the structure. And we kind of know what's inside it. We saw it being made, but we still want to know.
How did it come together? How does it look? What's the experience going to be? And they do this on cooking shows. I'm not a big cooking competition guy. I think they've beat that horse to death. But the one thing they do is like, is it cooked? And then they cut into the chicken, and it's like, and then they cut to commercial, and then you're like, oh my God, it's cooked. Woo!
Yeah. It's mystery box. It's mystery box psychology.
It's that mystery box, kind of that same feeling. It is visceral. On reality TV shows, it's a little less in depth than say this, but it's a good comparison.
Yeah. And Binging with Babish, I'm pretty sure he has a career because of this particular scene.
Yeah, this one and the pasta from Chef.
Yeah. Those were two big, but this one was a really big one. This was very important.
Yeah.
So the party's in full swing. It's a montage. You feel like you're there. You just have this warm. I don't know about you, but I felt really warm and like I was in a party that was safe and had cool people in it. You just get that warm feeling where you're just kind of like in the mix, you know? You're just kind of vibing it out. It just felt great.
Everyone's having fun.
Everyone's having fun. Everyone's eating. And then, bam, Pascal slams the table. Everything stops. Walks slowly over to Secundo, and he's threatening to kill him. And then he says, I should kill you. This food is so effing good. And then he kisses his cheeks and he embraces him and with this crazy bear hug. And I'm like, hell yeah, man. I want to feel that way about food. You know, I want to feel a murderous rage because this food is too good.
What was it was one of the Antonio the Desperado series movies, the one that at the end that wasn't as good. And Johnny Depp is at every restaurant and he's like, I have to go kill the chef now because I order this everywhere I go and this is the best one I've ever had. And it's all about balance. This reminded me of that for some reason.
The Puerco Pibil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine this guy going out there and you make the Puerco. The rumor probably got out amongst the cooks. Like, don't make that too good.
Yeah.
A boy from America will shoot your ass.
Yeah, kill you. So take it easy. But he wants to kill Primo because this dish is so good. And we see, I think we see Allison Janney take a bite of it, and or one of the ladies at the table, I believe, was Allison Janney, and she has yet another foodgasm.
Eyes roll back in the head. Yeah. And it's funny the murderous rage that Pascal has been whipped into because of the deliciousness of the food. Secundo, when he's speaking to Allison Janney in the kitchen, he's talking about how in this certain part of Bologna, they make this particular dish called lasagna bolognese. And he says, and you eat this, you have to kill yourself. You must kill yourself because after you eat this, you can't live. It's just that good.
It's just so good. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of murdering as far as food appreciation goes. I'm not sure what that's about, but,
part of it.
These are passionate men.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leads into 120, the cooking and main course food montage. We got baked salmon. We got, I think it's called capons or capons?
Capons.
Capon stuff with pomegranates, roasted potatoes and peppers, rabbit on a bed of polenta, rolls of veal stuffed with parsley and cheese, roasted vegetables, mushrooms, Roman artichokes and string beans, and the pièce de résistance. You got yourself a half-roasted pig being wheeled out here.
Yeah, so I guess this is now them going into Secundi, Primi versus Secundi. Maybe they didn't title card from here on out.
They didn't title card this.
So this is the rest of the meal, in all its glory, and it's insane.
Feels awesome. The montage, the food, everything. Just food porn at the highest level.
Italians are the best at eating. Like, as a culture, their culinary culture is just so rooted in family togetherness and people eating together. Everyone's sitting at one table. You're passing the wine. You're sharing things. It's very different. A lot of cultures have the same kind of thing. Like in Chinese culture, they'll sit at a round table with the spinny thing, the lazy Susan in the middle.
Love
and they'll all take a little bit and build their own plate.
Yeah, Japan, they got the boats coming down.
Yeah, the sushi boats. Yeah. In Japan, they all sit on the floor, and it's a different way of doing it. Every culture has their own way of eating. What about us? What about Canada? Because we're such a mixed bag of cultures, is there a way we do it, or do we just do it whichever culture? I guess it's whichever culture we come from.
We're a country of immigrants, man. We just kind of eat. We don't really have a specific custom, I don't think. I've seen a lot of dudes eating in their car. I'm a big car eater. I like eating in my car. I love that.
Yeah. I don't like eating and driving. I usually, if I'm eating something, I have to pull over and actually eat it because it's hard to eat and drive for me.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't like multitasking eating with any activity, driving or otherwise.
I don't like.
I don't even like talking on the phone while I'm eating.
Eating and walking annoys me.
No, yeah, because you forget that you ate.
Yeah.
You don't enjoy the food.
Yeah.
Like if you're eating and you're on the phone with somebody, you could eat an entire cake. It won't even register. You just ate an entire cake, man.
But I do like eating and getting fired.
Eating and getting fired is the one time you should eat and multitask.
Eating when you're taking a loss is good multitasking. We bring this up every episode.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. Breakups, firings. You're getting traded from your NHL team. Whatever, man.
Yeah.
Do it with something in your mouth.
Yeah.
Food. In your mouth.
Or whatever. But
yeah. Hey, listen. Yeah.
No judgment.
Listen, if you get fired with, I'm not even gonna get into it.
Nah.
All right, so minute 22, it's dolce, which is dessert, but they don't show any dessert. Everyone's just passed out at the end of this party. Like no one's even got room for dessert at this point.
Yeah, they're just full of food, and now they need the drink. They need that, maybe some sort of Zambuca to really kind of help with digestion. Yeah,
this whole thing kind of reminded me of a wedding.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of dressed nicely. It's kind of formal. They're sitting around a table. And at the end of it, everyone's just, it's all gone to hell. Their shoes are off. You know what I mean? The hair is down. People are falling asleep.
Yeah.
This is my type of party. I like this.
It's quite a big food coma going on. And it's when you're pairing like red wine with, heavy Italian food, like a drum filled with eggs and pasta.
Yeah, what do you think's going to happen?
You're going to sleep. Going to sleep.
So at 1:28, Gabriella, the incomparable Isabella Rossellini, at the end of the night, snitches on her husband Pascal and tells Primo that Louis Prima is never coming. A little confusion there with the two names, Primo and Louis Prima.
Yeah, it's annoying.
A little bit confusing, but... And then she says that, and then she says to Primo, thanks for the best meal of her life.
Yeah.
So cold as ice, Gabriella, you know what I mean? I'm gonna crush your dreams and also thank you.
That's great.
A great meal. Yeah. Thanks for the meal though. Yeah. See ya. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Real cold. Yeah. So if the reveal of the timpano is the greatest food porn scene of all time, I will say that at minute 141, at the very end of the movie, the last scene, it's the next morning. Mark Antony is sleeping on the butcher block.
Mm-hmm.
Secundo and Primo have had this giant fight after
climaxed. Yeah, the big fight on the beach.
Yeah,
and
they really have a falling out, like drag out, FU kind of match where it all comes to a head. All their tension comes to a head, and it seems like this is it. This is over. The brothers are splitting up. The restaurant's dead. Everything, all hope is lost, basically, when the end of this night has come. So now it is the next morning. The sun has come up. Secundo enters the kitchen. He's looking pretty depressed, but despite that, he wakes up I forget his name.
Mark Antony.
Mark Antony, whatever. Pre-J-Lo Mark Antony.
Yeah, pre-J-Lo Mark Antony.
So it's one shot. He enters, wakes the dude up. He starts cracking eggs into a pan, makes an omelet with 3 eggs. And we see him do it. It's all in one shot. He's literally making an omelet in front of us, a real omelet. And then he breaks off a piece for Mark Antony, breaks off a piece for himself, a little piece of bread for you, a little piece of bread for me. Let's just sit here and eat breakfast and not say anything.
Yeah.
We're not saying anything.
He doesn't even roll the omelet. Like he just cuts a chunk of it off and gives it to Buddy there, takes a chunk for himself. And it's weird because contrasting it to the abomination Burnt, when all hope is lost, his buddy there makes him an omelet.
Fancy French omelet.
Yeah, fancy French omelet. But it's kind of, and then they kind of commiserate with one another. But
and the guy says in the most cliched way, "You're the best.
You're the best.
We need you, man.
We need you. You take us places." But in this scene, they do the exact same thing. So clearly, Burnt maybe could have borrowed this notion.
We'll call it borrowed.
Borrowed or paid homage to. this scene in an attempt to try and elicit that same feeling that they totally, shot one over the barn on that one. But here, you actually get that feeling when Primo comes in and he shares the egg with him. He shares some of his with him.
And no one's talking.
Yeah.
It's all done through action.
Yeah. They don't say anything. They don't need to say anything. He's not like, you take us places that we wouldn't we'd be too afraid to go. No. They're saying, look, I know it went down last night. We had a big night. Yeah. But we're still good. Everything's
all the information that's communicated is Primo comes in, everyone kind of is looking around. Nothing gets said. He just sits next to Secundo. Secundo breaks off a piece of omelet for him. They sit next to each other. Secundo puts his arm around him for a second and then brings it back. And then Primo puts his arm around him for a second and then takes it back. And the end shot is just the two of them munching on their omelets, sitting quietly next to each other like they've probably done their entire lives.
Yeah. And the thing is, interestingly enough, it gives me a feeling of not all hope is lost. Because even when during the party, the reporter's like, I gotta go, because Louis Prima is not here or whatever. But I'm going to send a food reviewer at some point because this place is so good. So the restaurant's not totally done. Like, I don't know, like there's hope.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it seems like this restaurant might be done. This chapter in their lives might be done. But the two of them as brothers and as partners in life, they're going to stay together. The previous night, Primo is saying, let's go back to Italy. There's nothing for us here. Secundo is staunch. He wants to stay in America. So I think this silent shot shows that they might go back or they might stay, but they're staying together.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
So it was nice way to end the movie and end it on breakfast. Most important meal of the day.
And the most optimistic meal of the day.
Yeah, it sets you on the right path for the day, as we always say.
Listen,
if you have a good breakfast, you're going to have a good day.
We are an extremely pro-breakfast podcast.
Yeah.
We always have been. I feel like we always will be. And we hope everyone has good breakfast. Anyway, that is all the food in the GOAT of food movies big night. Now, the food awards. I'm going to add a sound effect here, some kind of drum roll.
Food awards.
All right, Jared, let's talk about it. Best use of food in the movie. We know.
Yeah.
Or do we know? Like you go first, and I'll figure it out.
I mean, there are so many good uses of food in this movie.
Yeah.
That to give it to the, I think I'm saying it wrong, the Tempane or whatever.
Tempano.
To give it to that, I guess you kind of have to.
Okay.
Because it's the catalyst for that whole dinner, basically.
Yeah.
But I'm reluctant to, because it almost feels too easy.
Very easy. Well, some might say the omelet, the hopeful omelet.
The hopeful omelet. I like
also the risotto, the Philistine risotto.
I like the Philistine risotto. I'm a big fan of the Philistine risotto. I'm going to put my eggs in that basket because I think that helped really set the story in motion. Right, that was the first layer of flavor in this Italian dish of a film that really kind of sets us up as we move through the story. What about you, Paul?
I gotta take up for the timpano. You just can't. I've never seen anything like that in a movie. That's the GOAT food porn of any movie I've ever seen to this day. To this day,
boom,
son. Jon Favreau can suck Tony Shalhoub's. I don't want to say it.
Timpano.
Timpano.
I mean, at some point we'll do that Favreau movie. But I'm curious to see where it lands. I think I know exactly where it would land in these burnt big night chef. I think I know where we would rank it, but I think the Timpano. I'd say it's too easy, but you're right. It represents the concept of this whole movie is like a Timpano. things get added in. There's, there's chaos in there. There's that outer crust. Like it's layered, it's nuanced. It's a simple dish, but in a very it's got a lot of complicated things going on underneath. So yeah, I agree. I think I don't disagree with you there. I like the Philistine risotto as a catalyst for the story. You like the timpano as an analogy for everything.
Yeah. Also, just the plain food porn of it.
Yeah.
Seeing it made, seeing it come out of the oven, seeing them touch it, and then seeing them actually cut through it, and the reactions to everyone eating it.
Yeah.
Masterful
Right.
food
You
porn.
Remember the slice of it, right? When you see the slice.
Oh yeah.
You remember that. Like it's like the garlic slices in Goodfellas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that is the first food award. Next food award. Which character would you most like to have dinner with?
The lowbrow side of me, Pascal's wife.
Do you think you could?
Do you think You think I could stand up to that deal? I don't know.
I'm saying, do you think you could close that deal?
I'm a happily married man.
Okay,
but I think
she's a handful, man. She doesn't suffer fools. So
yeah, I think this one's tough too. It would have.
I'm going with Gabriella, Pascal's wife.
You're going. You're swooping in on that one.
I'm telling you right now, you get 1.5 glasses of wine in this lady, and she will spill the beans on everything and everyone she hates. She will just, The antithesis. I want to talk to Gabriella.
The antithesis would be have dinner with Mark Anthony's character, who just stays quiet the whole time, and you get to eat. But I'm gonna go with Pascal.
Oh, good. This continues on your theme of father figures, by the way. Powerful men.
Jesus Christ.
Well, that's who you like to talk to.
Well, yeah, or I don't know if I see him as a father figure. I see, definitely.
He's the most powerful guy.
As an evil mentor, maybe, but he's diabolical, and so I think. But even he explains it in the end. Like, I didn't do it because you were stupping my wife, right? Like he was playing the chess pieces to try and get what he wanted. And so he's evil. He's the kind of,
he is the devil in this movie.
Yeah, he's the devil in this movie. He's he's the antithesis to the brothers, so, but I do like him. Father figure, I don't know, but maybe there is a pattern here, and we really need to dive deep into my psyche to figure this out. But next time, I'm gonna throw you guys a curveball and have dinner with like the hot lady or something.
All right. Do we have any spin-off from this movie? What do you think is the spin-off that you would like to see from this movie?
I think whatever happens to Mark Anthony would be an interesting story.
Yeah.
Maybe a silent film.
Absolutely.
Also Pascal's wife.
Okay.
I think she could be interesting.
All right. I like the reporter from the newspaper.
All right.
I think that guy's got an interesting life.
Yeah, he goes to restaurants to interview jazz musicians.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think he smokes the marijuana cigarettes.
Probably.
And he hangs out with beatniks, jazz musicians, hippies, liberal Jewish politicians, and just the general intelligentsia of both the upper class and the lower class. I think he mingles amongst both. He reminds me of one of those guys who works for the New Yorker from the French Dispatch. Sorry, he reminds me of a character who works for the French Dispatch.
Right.
That's what I meant to say.
He's their food guy or something.
Yeah, he's their people, places, and things guy.
Yeah.
So, ratings. What are your ratings for this?
I mean, as a food movie, I have trouble finding fault with it.
Mm-hmm.
The whole movie is an analogy for food. There is so much food in it. So I probably am going to have to give that a 10.
No, we're going for 5.
5. Why do I always go 10? I always lean 10.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a hard 5 for me as a food movie.
5 what's though?
5. I'll give it 5 aperitifs.
Dope.
And as a movie,
yeah.
I'll give it 4 digestifs.
All right. I got as a food movie. Listen, we got to give that 5 rabbits on a bed of polenta. So,
okay.
And as a movie, we got to go 5 Roman artichokes.
So you're going
100%.
5 and 5, 5 and 5.
5 and 5, 5 and 5. I love this movie. This movie feels like a relative to me. Like it feels like family to me. I get that feeling when I watch this movie.
Yeah, it's hard to find flow with it. I think there are things that I would have liked, just to see, or just things I would have liked explained a little more to me. Not in the burnt way, but just certain things that because I'm curious. But hard to find any flaws with this film. It's a pretty good movie. Like it's up there.
Yeah. God bless this movie. All right. Well, unless you have anything more to say, I think we can wrap it up.
I have nothing more to say on the subject.
Whew, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Food Movies podcast for the seminal food movie, the one that started it all, the GOAT of food movies, Big Night, written by Stanley Tucci, co-directed with Stanley Tucci and some other guy who was in the movie, which I forgot his name.
Some other guy.
Do we have a movie for next week? I don't think we do.
No, we don't. So we'll leave that as a mystery, unless you have something and you want to do.
We're gonna get back to them.
Yeah, we're not going to solve this right
now. No. This is what we're doing. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Bold.
Yeah.
All right, I'm into it.
We're doing it.
I'm into it. Do they? Yeah, there's food in that.
There's got to be food in that. If there's not, we'll do something else. But as of right now, it's going to be National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. This has been the Food Movies Podcast. I'm your host, Paul. That's Jeremy. We'll see you next time, folks.
See you later.
All right. Good job, Jer.
Good stuff. All right, man.
Whew.